All right, everybody, welcome back to Number One Leading Ladies, the podcast by women for women, where we practice what we preach and we try to focus on building women up instead of tearing each other down. So today we have a special friend of mine, also named Kaylee. So it's pretty cool. So Kaylee immediately impressed me, and I won't do her justice introducing her, so I'll go ahead and let her introduce herself. She does quite a bit, but we're going to just ask our regular 3 questions like we normally do today and kind of just have like a phone conversation. So Kaylee, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Kaylee. By the way, which I don't have a lot of friends named Kaylee. In fact, I think you're the only Kaylee that I know. So it's kind of cool.
I'm
We're
almost
pretty exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my name is Kaylee Ocampo, and I own Love You Mean It Coffee. It's a lifestyle brand and company that offers organic, fair trade, direct trade, premium quality coffee matched with a quality of life vision and community. So that's what we're about, and everything is online, and we do exclusive events, have some CBD products as well, all encompassing lifestyle, better focus, better results for everyday life kind of company. So that is me in a nutshell.
Well, okay, we'll get into that. So I was going to ask you a question. We'll get into that in a sec. Very, very nice, very cool. So you do a little bit of a couple of things, but they all have a common theme. So I guess the first question I'm going to ask, because like I'll attest to this, a lot of people want to get into entrepreneurship, and I was just thinking this today because some days, I mean, I've got my brain going and I can't sleep, and then so the next day I'm like, man, I'm tired. But I thought to myself, yeah, at least, I mean, I was going to say I could get a nap in, but not really. I don't have time. So you just kind of suck it up, get things done, and then you go early tonight. But, when I was thinking about being an entrepreneur, I think a lot of people think about it who either never do it or, from the outside looking in, who think, oh, it's like this really pretty fairy tale land where you get to make your own schedule. You get to, kind of travel where you want to. You get to, I don't even know what they think, but that's not the case in my situation. It's the complete opposite. So when you're starting off and getting into business, so for me, I don't have a business background. So it was even weirder because, I don't understand some like core structure things that you need to know and as we go. But when you start off, it's not that easy. So everybody's got a different story when it comes to what it took to get it going. So whether it's, I had to live in my mom and dad's basement, I had to take out another mortgage on my house, I had to use credit cards to do my first investment, whatever it is, how did you get going and then get over those challenges?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, you're right. It's not just easy kick back, you make your own schedule, you do whatever. You become busier, but you feel busy, but you're passionate about what you're doing. Hopefully, anyway, you should be. So you want to do more as much as possible. So I attest to that same thing of just being overworked, tired, and but you have to keep going because if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it for you. So it all falls on your shoulders. But for me, how I got started, I always knew I wanted to have my own company. I knew I wanted it to be online e-commerce. That's the way of the world. So I kind of had that inception about 6 years ago or so. But my background is in philanthropy consulting and doing events. So I used to always have an opportunity to create an environment and an experience for people. So I'm not a very transactional based person. I knew that whatever I did had to have meaning. So it took some time for me to finally realize what it was I was going to do. And it basically stemmed from me experiencing great coffee with great roommates at the time when I was living on the beach in El Segundo. We would have coffee on Saturday, Sunday mornings and open up the windows, have the beach breeze coming through. And I said, I want to replicate this experience for other people. Well, fast forward to 4 years, which was about a year ago. I live in Texas now. I had a really good job and I had saved up some money, and it was either invest in a home, which I don't know anything about, which you're going to help me there. And then, or it was start my business. So I obviously chose start my business. So I saved up some money. I got my feet, situated here and planted. And then I remembered that it was going to be coffee. Like I remember having that experience as I was kind of going through some ideas of what it was I wanted to offer the world, because my entire premise is value add. That is what I wanted to do first. So I actually initially started the company with doing a little video series called Coffee with Kaylee. And it was just sharing a positive quote or message and how you can apply that to overcome everyday challenges in your everyday life. Very mindset, growth and development driven. And so I started with that first. And then while I was working on just kind of starting to put the pieces together in the background, 8 months after the video series had launched on Facebook and Instagram, I inserted the coffee aspect, and that's how I built up the momentum in order to feel confident enough to create the product and get it out there to the market. So I had done a lot of networking and building the community first, since that was the whole premise of what I wanted to do. So that's how I got started, and that was in September of 2019. So since then, I have obviously invested all that I had saved into the company and then got business credit cards. So I am, on business credit, but I also have an investor interest, and that's coming on board very soon, thankfully. And that all stems from the community and the networking aspect of my life from years prior, from the work I used to do back in LA. So I'm very lucky and feel very honored and excited to get that going. But I know that it was all because of all the hard work I've been doing for many years, driving with the passion that I've had to connect with people and build something valuable.
What do you think in your transition from, like, you're essentially bootstrapping it, and so I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of like, all right, give me your money. This is dumb. But I think you have to have a system that's proven for you to go, all right, look, here's how it works. I put in this much money, I do A, B, C, D, and here's what you get. So I just need you to do that 10x. Like, that's all we need to do, and then mobilize it more. So there's a few different things, a little bit business ADD. So I've got like this. And, picking one thing is also something that's still a challenge for me, even at the beginning. And then, so it sounds like you kind of had that journey too of pick one thing and you're like, wow, one thing, get really good at it, make it grow a lot. And then, maybe add in some other things like you mentioned that kind of are all along the same lines. Like, I do real estate, but I also have residential involved with one of my other companies. And then also, so you can use licenses to do different things. But anyway, that's the point of picking something. That's the struggle in of itself. And then how am I going to pay for this? So, bootstrapping it like you're doing. And, people would tell me, I think someone said this last year, like, I'm like, I probably spend somewhere between 70 to 90% of everything I make goes right back into my business. And that would make sense if it was turning a profit, but unfortunately I found that because it was my cash and it wasn't somebody else, I was almost too comfortable to saying, if it's a loss, if it's not a big deal. But if it's somebody else's capital, I'm super protective of my time. Whenever I'm, vetting someone who's helping me with marketing or whatever it is, I'm like, here's your criteria. Here's what you need to be doing in a week. Here's what I need to see on the other end. And if not, we're done, And so it's interesting seeing those two things next to each other. And, kudos to you for bootstrapping it. That's
thanks.
hard because you spend so much time where you're like, you need to take care of yourself. That's another really important thing when you're an entrepreneur. Like you said, we work so much, especially when you're passionate about it. And then you end up going, oh my God, I just worked 90 hours last week or whatever. And it's Sunday, worked all the way through my week, and tomorrow's Monday. And if you don't give yourself some time, some relaxation, just turn it off. Like, I used to not understand this because I don't know, when you, I don't know how to say it, but like now it's kind of like when people want to like go out and party and have so much energy, I'm like, where does that even come from? Like, I'm spent.
I understand that. Yeah.
Like, I will occasionally, but like during the middle of the day, like, and then I can go home and sleep. So, good for you for bootstrapping it. And then now, what do you feel like has been probably your biggest, so one question I'll ask is, what do you think has been your biggest lesson? And then I'm going to weave it into this question and the next question when it comes to getting people's attention, because I think that's kind of where things start to change in a quick way. So, I didn't do business back before the internet, right? I'm just doing it while there's the internet. And so right now what I understand is that people don't buy your stuff or whatever because, like, obscurity, they don't know who you are. or
Yeah.
you're too shy to get out there and be confident about what you have. So like that little guy in your head kind of thing stopping you from just going for it. So I think those are the two things. And now that we have online, I'm like, okay, so I'm online. I've got a website, and now I'm trying to figure this and that out. So I'll ask it in the context once you're done answering, like on your, like however you want to answer it, how that applies to getting people's attention and like getting to that next level. But what do you think so far, period, has been your biggest lesson?
That's a very tough, big, open-ended question. But I would have to say the biggest lesson is learning that it's never enough. So that has been the biggest thing. Because I come from a background of branding and marketing, and that's what I've done. I've done consulting for other businesses in the past, and even with my previous work that I was doing and my clients, I still do some consulting on the side. I'm passionate about bridging the gap between someone's vision and their destination. So that's where I come into play, whether it's sales, marketing, branding. So that's my passion. And I wanted to apply that to my own business and be able to scale something that I can call my own. And so in doing so, I thought I had it, pretty outlined pretty well. I had some pretty decent momentum from networking and staying present online, which is very tiring. And it wasn't something that I initially wanted to do as much, but I knew that if I was going to share something with the world that was coming from me, it had to actually come from me. So that's when my presence grew a lot more, and just staying in front of people like you do a very good job of that. So you're very familiar with that. And that's been the biggest thing, is that it's never really enough. And you kind of have to accept that. So there's always something you can be doing. Should you be doing it? No, especially if you're wearing all the hats in the business. There's not always a time where I can stay on the forefront and, keep pushing and keep pushing. And eventually people are going to get tired of me. So the biggest lesson is definitely that there's always going to be room for more. So you have to draw those lines of where do you stop for the day, for the week, for the month. What is sufficient to you in that category, and then making sure that you're paying attention to the other pieces of the puzzle as well to keep the business running on the back end. I guess that would have to be the biggest lesson. And I think that's pretty much it. The biggest one, I guess.
How do you do that? How do you track what is good enough for you? Or how do you reassess that and do that?
If I start, because that is very particular to the marketing and the branding and presence, I would say that tracking it comes down to how am I feeling, and to the core of my being. What energy am I giving off? What value am I adding to somebody, to the audience? And if I'm not feeling like I'm really adding anything, that's when I know that I need to pull back. That's when I know I need to shift my focus, take a time out, do some self-care, focus on something else that's a little more mindless and tedious and quiet and in my zone, so that I'm not constantly giving off bad energy. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people. You can have the best product, you can have the worst product. If it all comes down to the person selling it and the marketing, right? So if I'm not selling myself in a very authentic way, and I'm having to feel like it's forced, then I definitely know it's time to pull back and shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, somebody said something to me the other day. It was interesting because this was someone that used to work for Grant Cardone, and we were talking because I'm actually really proud of him, because I was like, you were the one doing all this stuff, and that's how every business works. You have the visionary CEO, and then you have everyone that has their different roles. But at the same time, like when you were wearing so many hats in a quality way, so meaning like when you were doing apartments, right? So there's like someone that finds the deal, someone that gets the funding. I mean, we all do the funding, but there's main lanes that you kind of stay in. When this is somebody who has this large figurehead, who at the time when they started together was not as crazy big as he was now in that world or capital world, and then that person essentially carrying that and that and that. Or two pieces of like five or whatever, and being able to do it completely like on their own and doing it for somebody else. That's when he was like, I finally left because I realized I could do it myself. I go, you could the whole time,
Yeah.
but again,
Yeah.
that little guy in your head. Yeah. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. When you're like, you have to base it on how you feel, because his was being taught by this figurehead, like very much a used car salesman type mentality, where everything that
Yeah.
the person does is geared towards selling and selling and selling, like features, benefits. And like, that's cool, but that's really not how I see, and obviously I think how you see things working when it comes to sales. Like, I think it has to really benefit people, and then it will just flow.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
when he talked to me, he said something to the effect of, oh yeah, this woman thing, like, that's really good marketing. And I was like, it's not marketing. Yeah, I know. I was like,
keep that up.
once you get to know me, once you get to see kind of how intentional I am every day, and like even the people I talk to, I'm like, I'm out there about it. I'm like, this is what I care about: financial inclusion, women's independence, da 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 da. And if that makes you uncomfortable, like I said something to a guy yesterday that a dentist was messaging me saying something about wanting to not just be passively investing, but actively investing. And so I said, well, what I'd actually prefer is I'd prefer your wife to lead your investments in your household. You can support her. I want you to put her first and forward. I want her to be able to make the decisions. You said she's analytical. She likes underwriting. That's great.
Yeah.
Let her do it. And then I'm assuming because you're the dentist, you probably have a bunch of capital. And so that can kind of be your role in that relationship. But I said, here's the reason why. I want that little girl that I see in your guys' pictures to look at her mother and to go, oh, I can pick up this hammer. I don't have to pick up a magic wand, and it doesn't make a difference. Like, I can choose whatever I want. And there's no, because all these books I'm reading are about how even like our toys and like the activities we do are like sex, and anyway, so that's literally what I do. And the guy totally took it like weird. And you want to talk to my wife? And I was like, yeah, I do. Like, anyway, but I ended up, I think, rereading it and coming back later, and he goes, actually, I think I read your message wrong. Here's her email. Like, that's actually really cool. I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, it's not just marketing, but I think when you put what you care about in business together, that's more enjoyable, at least if you're spending 90 hours doing it a week, right?
Yeah.
How did you kind of figure out that the stuff that you do, so all the lifestyle branding, how did you figure out that was kind of what you wanted to do, or like kind of your purpose in the working world?
You mean the consulting I was doing?
What?
The consulting that I was doing prior?
No, now, when you're saying that what you do, kind of whether it's the coffee or the CBD or the experience or whatever, it's all about like a lifestyle brand, lifestyle experience. And so kind of what made that light bulb come on where you're like, that's it?
Well, so it all came from, going back to the start of my career. So when I was in college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, right? Because you're in college and you don't really know. And I knew that I had a passion for helping people, but I wasn't helping people at the time. So I started kind of networking a little bit, and that's when I met my former business partner and employer at the time back in LA in 2009. So he did philanthropy events, he did charity events, and I was like, well, okay, I want to give back. I just need to start doing something and feeling it out. So it was really a trial and error, and by experience and hands-on experience that you really learn about what it is you're about. And then you can start driving that focus and steering it in the direction that pertains to you. So for me, it was about creating. So we ended up partnering. He used to connect celebrities with charities around the world, and we would create red carpet events and have these experiential marketing things going on with sponsors coming in and different brands and product placement on social media, cause marketing campaigns with holding up papers and hashtag whatever. So a lot of unique activations like that, and I would just come in and try to help facilitate these things and make them bigger and better, just by way of who I am, wanting to help it become more than what it could be based on just what they have down on paper. So that's where I got the experience. And in doing so, we would put on so many different events, and the feeling and the feedback from everyone was just so rewarding and fulfilling. And I knew that is what I wanted to continue to do as far as an impact on people. I wanted to create something that put a smile on their face, made them feel good, made them feel safe and happy, and free. And so that is where it started many years ago, in 2009. And we turned out lots of events and did lots of different activations from 2009 until, geez, I don't even know when. It was about 7 years. And then after that, that's when, I got introduced to the coffee and, had that whole experience with my roommates. So I just knew that everything that I was going to do had to have that impact. So that's how I lead with my marketing. That's how I lead with my sales. That's how I lead with my interactions. And I just stay true to that. I have blinders on. I don't even look at what other people are doing in the coffee industry, in anything. I look from within and I pull it out from within and I just give it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then I just pivot. But at the end of the day, I want to be as true to myself as possible. And what makes me happy is having an impact that is positive on other people. So that's where that comes from.
So we have a similar kind of like core. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like for me, if I can, so I do all this education stuff, because I'm like,
yeah,
I get it. Like if I can take somebody that sees something or hears something and they're like, oh shit, I could skip 10 years ahead. That makes me happy because like I've had a couple people do that for me. I've got, my negotiation gangster that I call, and I've got my, I'm like, this guy is just too much. Okay,
yeah.
Tell him, I'll sleep on it and then we'll do these 5 options. You have to, anyway, but the core deal there is that like, if I can give something that I've already had to go through and help someone get ahead, like that makes me happy. Cool.
Yeah. And you're more on the organized side of it. I'm not. So like, that's your expertise. Like we have the same, passion and drive that is similar goal of wanting to help people, get them to be in a better position. Yours is more on like the analytical and the data and the organized side, and mine's more of like the feelings side. So I think it's interesting to draw those parallels where you can have the same vision.
Yeah. That's who I am as a person. So it's interesting that like I've had to like, mentally go through therapy and talk to my therapist about like, and I'm still figuring this out. Like, what do I think strength is? Like, what do I think weakness is? Like for me, actually, I realized for a long time that like someone that's extremely feminine was, and I had a hard time, so I'm kind of tomboyish. I backpack a lot. I like I'm outside because forever. So I was abused as a kid. And so like, it was a protection thing. So if I just was one of the guys, and I actually would say that, like I went to Croatia years ago and it was a bunch of dudes and me and one other girl, I think on our boat. And I remember like, hey, we're just buds. You're not going to touch me, like literally saying that out loud. And so then I have a girlfriend that is extremely feminine and extremely emotionally intelligent. And I'm like data intelligent. And so I can't understand her. So I've really worked on, so she kind of sometimes she's like, I think you think I'm stupid. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just don't understand how your brain thinks sometimes. And so a lot of it is me trying to see through that person's eyeballs or like get in their shoes and try to be like, okay, if I'm in a situation, how would I, be them basically. But you're right. So, I mean, obviously what for me has been comfortable has been leaning on data instead of feelings. So feelings for me are very, unpredictable and very scary because there's a lot of feelings that I wouldn't allow myself to feel for a long time. And now I'm more comfortable. It's okay to cry. It's okay to get mad. It's okay for other people to do it too. But I'm not as bad. Like I read a lot, and so it's very comfortable for me to lean on the analytical data driven side because it's predictable. I mean, people are not predictable. So I'm trying to.
And that's why you're successful in your field because that's what works in that field. That wouldn't work so well with mine. It would just be another coffee company that's just there, so it's very, it applies to what you're doing for sure.
The hard part and why I've had to do a lot of soul searching is because there's actually more layers to it. So going from someone that is doing house flips, single family, you're doing your own thing. You have a crew of dudes. You're like, you're telling them to do this. Here, I'm going to pay you. I mean, it's annoying, but it's simple. And you just have to kind of have some structure for them and roles and things. But when it comes to multifamily, it's different. It's very much a people business where you're like, if you're in a business, you're not just flipping houses by yourself. Like You have like, a
Yeah.
staff of people that you have to meet with all the time. You have other partners that you have to talk to. You have, I mean, other people going through things in their lives. I mean, trying to be very generous when you pay people, trying to be understanding. And that's what I really tried to work on, you know, this last year, instead of letting somebody's reaction, because you can't control other people's reactions or their thoughts or their perceptions, but their reaction, instead of me going, oh, like, I don't want to deal with that, I go, okay, that's valid. I totally understand. What can I do to support you, or take that away so that that feeling can go away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of like having an adverse reaction to it. So trying to pivot my way of thinking. So multifamily has helped me grow a little bit as a person too.
Yeah. That's good.
So in your biggest lesson, what would you say then on the other side would be your biggest win?
My biggest win, I like that question.
Ding! Sorry, I hate that.
Oh, it's a tough question because there's two pieces to it. So the first piece is the biggest win is the responses that I get from people who experience the coffee and the community. So getting, I put out messages that hopefully resonate with someone, and maybe it doesn't resonate with them that day, but maybe they come back to it later, or maybe it's someone who really needed to hear this message or see that or experience those feelings that I put out through the channels. And then they just say, thank you, I really needed this today. And that's the biggest win. And that's what makes me keep going. And then having them experience the coffee, and it's really good quality, because it's about quality coffee, but quality of life, right? And for me, coffee comes into play when I'm meditating, journaling, experiencing the sunrise, and enjoying that moment of solitude and peace. And then there's also the times where I get to meet with people and have a really good connection and conversation. So coffee is a universal language that brings people together for those experiences. And so whenever they get to share that with me and they love the coffee and they talk about their mornings with it, that makes me super happy. And that's what keeps me going. That is definitely what fuels me. So that is the biggest win. And then secondly, on the business side of things, is knowing that because of everything that I was driven from, everything that I am driven from, that stems from so long ago, from that networking pool back in LA and doing the work that I was doing, and just giving the value that I was giving at that time in that space, that presented the opportunity for someone that I met in that sphere to come back now, years past, and say, I want to invest in your company. I know who you are. I've been watching you. I've seen the way you do things. I love your brand. I love what you've built, and I love what it stands for. I believe in you. So that was the second biggest win, and that's the process that I'm in right now.
That's awesome. I've been there before for sure. Like, doesn't that feel so good? And like, I'm curious to watch your journey and how that goes, like how you guys structure everything, and how, like, I hate to say it this way, but how in you guys get as far as like, how you structure it, how involved they are. Because sometimes too, the cool thing, like the first person that, said that for money, that was one deal. It was like a surgeon friend of mine that I've been hanging out for years. It was like, you were like here when I met you, and you've been slowly figuring yourself out. And I've been like watching you. And then on the other end, somebody that, is wanting to do big funding, and or the third person, which could be one or both of the others, is someone that for me in multifamily was my sponsor. So like somebody that we know now why we have like this connection, which is interesting because I didn't know it then. He was like, what value am I giving you? I don't understand. Like, you have to, I don't get it. Now I get it. But someone that will vouch for you, and someone that will say, hey, I'm going to sign on the loan for this person because I see their work ethic, I see who they are, and I believe them, do things for you. Like I had somebody that I was in a deal, and I had a large check coming too, actually. And because of a bazillion different situations, like someone's license expiring, so I mean, just so much crap. It went from one fiscal year into the next, and that was supposed to cash out like months before. And I'm a very patient person, but that cash was meant to heal. And I feel like, okay, a month, it's fine. We're not even in there yet. I'm just using my own money to do this. 2 months, okay, we're still fine. Like it's, the whole deposit's not due yet. And then we're getting into the next year, and I'm going, what the F is going on? You know? So this person, not only did they vouch for me, but they covered my ass in that situation. No problem. I'll deposit it in your account. And I didn't even ask, you know, because I was like, okay, so what kind of payment terms are we going to do? What kind of interest? Like what? Don't even worry about it. If you feel comfortable, put together a promissory note, but there's no interest, there's no payment terms, there's, you know, and I was like, what the heck? So of course they paid me and I paid them back within like a week and a half. But like, you know, the fact that someone was even willing to do that blew my mind it all, because my own family wouldn't even like let me borrow their car when I go home. You know what I mean? So I'm curious to see how that relationship develops and like what more you do together. And
Oh yeah, no, that's actually literally going on right now, where I have so much going on, and I need an assistant, and I'm trying to complete the presentation, you know, the investor package, so we can finalize things. But I need the assistant, and he's like, I'll start paying for the assistant. So I'm like, that's before, you know, how are we gonna, you know, and he's like, don't worry, like you need this so you can continue forward in that. So he's already shown that kind of support, and that is such a big blessing to have someone who you can rely on and who is buying into you and your company and your work ethic, like you said, so much so that they will put their money where their mouth is. And that, that's huge. That's really, really huge. And I'm super grateful for that. That's really, I totally can experience or can attest to your experience with that 100%.
Yeah, right now it's still going. Like, situations where, and this is where things like, also you'll see what happens like with like coronavirus and the lockdown and all this crazy stuff that's been going on. You're going to see people's mental health and their true desires, who they really are, whatnot. And so in this situation, that's what I've seen is the true character of this person. And it's so impressive because now, again, just like, you know, linking up like the 300 movie, you know, where everybody's on the same team. It's just like that. And it's like, we're solid. Nobody else can mess with us. We're moving forward. Yeah. And so when things get hard is when you also can really see, can see what the true character of the person is, like how long they're going to be there and whatever. Like it's for life. But I'm really excited for you. That's awesome. Super awesome.
Thank you.
So those are the 3 questions that we always ask on the podcast. I just feel like it's a pretty good, you know, if you had any big lessons you want to share, or, you know, any big wins or whatnot, because sometimes they're unexpected. Like a lot of, you know, mothers that I have on here, just getting into a balanced situation. I get it. When you were actually talking about the coffee, it was really funny because I was closing my eyes and like with my eyes open and thinking about like, oh yeah, in Colorado with like the mountains behind me and coffee and, like, my egg whites and my, you know, whatever, my journal.
Yeah.
And then I just thought to myself, like, oh man, can you tell how can you tell I don't have kids?
Yeah.
Because you get those moments.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so we've got everything covered that we normally ask. We're just about right on time. So now's an opportunity to tell me or tell the audience anything that you would like help with, anything that you're looking for, and also how our audience can get a hold of you if they have any questions about how to maybe, you know, bring your coffee into their co-working space or something like that.
Yeah. So you can find the coffee online. Love You Mean It is the company, but I use the acronym LYMI, LymmyCoffee.com. You can go there. You can find all the episodes of Coffee with Kaylee, which, by the way, the Country Network has picked it up to officially produce it as a real show, and so that'll be coming live to everyone very soon. But you can find recent episodes and interviews there. You can find obviously the coffee. We have more coffee coming out, and on Instagram at Lymmy Coffee, LYMI Coffee. Find us there. We're still in July. What day is it? Okay, so I'm doing a Freedom and Free Coffee for July. So I'm giving away a ton of coffee. I just gave away 5 free bags yesterday, and I'm thinking about doing it again. So go find me right now and then register. You'll see on the Instagram page how you can apply to do that, to win a free bag if you want to give it a try, or just go ahead and make that purchase.
Awesome. That's really awesome of you to give away. And then you also, something I want to kind of plug in here real quick is that So I have a lot of like sheriff buddies and like judges and things like that, because that was one reason why this sponsor of mine and I bonded without knowing it, is that we just both stand for justice. Like we don't like bullies. We're not okay with people pushing you around. And so you did something recently where you donated some coffee, or well, made its own brand, I think, right? Tell us a little bit about that before I let you go. Sorry.
Yeah, the Blue Lives cup. Yeah, so I had a couple. I have some bags that are ready made for industry brewing dispensers, and I wanted to go ahead and donate that to the police force, because during the riots and everything, they were very overworked and underappreciated, and I don't stand for that. So I took those bags, created a brand new label, put a thin blue line in between that label, in between my brand logo, and had a nice message for them on there. And so we're actually going to be donating that very soon. They're still being finished, packaged up right now, and we're just going to give them the fuel that they need, because my coffee is extra caffeinated, organic, very clean, and gives them that sense of like clarity. So that's what they need to fuel their days. And so I wanted to go ahead and offer that. And we also have another Blue Label specialty bag that is a limited edition for the Country Network, for the funds that they were raising to support the families and the staff who were out of work during COVID. So anything like that, you know, we're always trying to support and link up and collaborate with good causes that represent good people.
Good. So that may all come together. Now, if you could ask for something for our audience, what would you ask for?
I would ask that you go follow us on Instagram and share your stories with us about how you enjoy coffee. That was actually the recent giveaway that we did, is tell us how you appreciate it. What does that moment mean to you? And we'll go ahead and send you some samples and free bags, and just share it with everyone you know. Give it a try. You can use the discount code LOVELIMI, and you can save 10% on any of the coffee purchases that you decide to make.
Yeah, I was going to say, just go buy a bag and then share stories.
Yeah, share and post. That is always what we want to see, is how people are enjoying their coffee in the morning, and what kind of background scenery do they have. So I expect to see some from you when you go camping and backpacking.
Gotta go in here.
Exactly. I want to see that Limmy coffee pouring in there.
Okay, cool. Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. And my dog's about to go crazy. Thank you guys so much today for listening. Thank you guys for paying attention to all these wonderful guests that I get to have on our show. We'll see you guys in another week on #1 Leading Ladies. We've got Kaylee and Kaylee, and I'll see y'all soon.
Kaylee. Bye.